Kia ora. Sonya Ihimaera, aho. Whakapapa to Te Reo Hou and Ngāti Whātua on Poto Point. Waikaretu marae is my marae. But here I live with my husband Steve in Tāngata, and alongside the beautiful Mongataniwha range. And you might be able to hear the water running, and that is the Rātohi stream that flows down the mountainside here, spring-fed. So what a privilege to be able to listen to the music that plays. I'm part Māori and Irish. Back in the day when I was born, you know, we had what percentage you are of this and that. And actually, you know, if my grandfather was here, my Māori grandfather, he would say I'm 100% his. And if my Irish grandfather was here, he'd say I'm 100% his. And so I am what I am. Yeah, I'm the oldest of three girls, and I'm the oldest granddaughter. And so with that comes a fair degree of responsibility. So when I speak to anybody about anything that is pertinent and important and has weight to it, I have a lot of feeling around from whom do I speak from. And so that sits with me, the responsibility of who I'm speaking on behalf of. Definitely not of all Māori, and definitely not of all Irish people either. But that's my cultural mix, and within that mix, my worldview might be different from others. I was actually raised Irish Catholic and never raised on a marae, but that has come later on in life when I've had the ability to live closer to my marae and have those links back to them, and very much part of my marae now. In a formal work life, I was a child and family therapist for probably 26 years, which I loved. I was born and bred in South Auckland, and I worked there for quite some time. I've worked also in Houston, Texas, and I worked there with women who were released from the penal institution there, from prisons, before they were released back into the community. So they were in a halfway house, and I worked there as therapist/pastor. And then from there, most of my mahi then shifted to Trinidad in the West Indies, and I did a lot of pro bono. I didn't have a work permit for there. We were there under my husband's contract, and I worked there with a lot of African Trinis, their children and families, and I also did clinical supervision with a lot of the staff that worked at a juvenile lockup for boys, 8 to 18-year-olds. Some in there for stealing a loaf of bread, and others for murder. And my role there was to supervise the staff, that most of them had no training for what they did. So I was there for a little while as well. And then we shifted back home here. My husband's American, and he decided that this is a place that he would like to retire in. And we found this amazing place. So I do not whakapapa to here by blood, but I very much feel like I am at home here. I have a close connection with Tāngata marae and a lot of the whānau that are there. So I have a lot of respect for this place, and I'm privileged to be here. I take the role of kaitiaki, or guardian, very seriously. And my husband is an American. A lot of those philosophies and understandings and those roles were very new to him, but he takes that seriously too. You know, an American man, geologist, scientist, who now asks permission for a tree to prune its branches. That's a big shift, but I love that he is actually very connected to what we do here and has that sense of responsibility and awe of where we live. After I retired, I felt like I wanted to get to know the ngahere a bit more. So I know the names of some of the rako, the trees, and I knew a little bit about what they were used for. I knew a little bit more maybe about Irish herbalism, and I had some of those plants growing in the garden there. but I was just drawn to find out more about what was here. And a lot of my thinking has shifted from going to a pharmacy, PH, into a pharmacy, FAR, and what it is that we can do to help ourselves be well and take care of ourselves. One of the important things for myself and my whānau has been to really develop our sense of tino rangatiratanga. So our own sense of self-determination. And it's not that we are actually anti-government or rebels as such, but there is a degree of what is it that we can do on our own whenua that is good for us and the best thing for us. And so it does come down to, what food we eat, who we invite here, what we drink, what time we go to bed. The very simple things around our health and our wellness, about what we can do. And around that has been, I guess, a look at what pharmacy is, the PH variety, as opposed to pharmacy. So pharmacy as in on the farm, growing what it is that you need. And that has been very important for us as healthy adults. And in our aging years too, what is it that we need to be able to do to take care of ourselves? So around that thinking, it has prompted me to learn more about rongoa, Māori medicine. And I knew a little bit about the Celtic side of things, but actually to be able to find out a lot more about what is on our doorstep as far as, kauri and the tōtara and titoki and kawakawa and kumraho, and, the list goes on. But all of those rākau that are taonga, are treasures to us. What is it that we can use is there for our use? And it is, whether it's food for us or the birds or other creatures that live in the ngahere here, or medicine for us. Not necessarily as an alternative to the medical prescribed variety, but as an alternative if we want to, or as well as. I did an 18-week course, which isn't very long, but just to be able to get some more information and get myself, I guess, disciplined in a learning realm again. It's been a long time since I did any kind of training, like 30 years ago. So that was really fun, but it was also a good way to meet up with other like-minded people that were on that same journey, and some that had been on that journey for a long time, and some that were new, like me. One of the things that I was taught about rongoa is, what rongoa actually is the wairua and the mauri of a plant. So that all of these trees that live in the ngahere here, that grow here, all have a whakapapa. They originated from here. They are from here. Their ancestors are from here. And so these little Nico seedlings that we find sometimes on the riverbanks here, their parents and their grandparents and their great-grands and so on come from here. So when a Māori person introduces themselves and does their whakapapa and their pepihao, the maunga that they belong to, it is the same with these rākau here. And that there brings an equality, I think, and a respectfulness to us as far as where they fit into the greater scheme of things and where we do as well. It brings on a responsibility, I guess. When you know something, you can't unknow it. Once you know that and you understand whakapapa and the importance of that, of from whence we come and from whence they come, there is an equality that happens with us in that moment. Part of Kaitiakitanga is knowing that and recognising that and living that way. I am no better and no worse than that blade of grass or that kawakawa leaf over there. I also change with seasons. I have realised that as I've gotten older. And I think living in the country, living in rural areas, the seasons impact us a little bit more. The moon, maramataka, and what happens with the moon, and when it is the right time for us to be far more energetic and get out there and do this and not plough the field, but dig that garden, or other times when it's time to rest. And the whenua does that, and the rākau has that too. So it's living alongside and with, and not fighting against. And there's a surety in that, actually, that one season will follow after the other. The kawa will fruit. The birds will get some of that fruit. We will have some of that as well. And then there will be no more fruit, but there will be seeds there, and some of those seeds will drop, and the circle of life will continue for that rako. More seedlings will come up, etc., and the whakapapa will continue. Those things are very important. Issues that have come up, I guess, for us since we have lived here has included what others do. And so not everybody will have the same values and the belief systems that we have. And it's being respectful of that. But whether it has been my training in mental health that comes with that medical model of first do no harm, that falls over into many of the things that we do here in our lives. First do no harm. That can be a challenge, actually, because sometimes there are things you need to take care of. A rat in our attic eating our wiring needs to be taken care of. And how you do that and how you go about that is really important. But it needs to not live there, and it needs not to eat through your wiring. So it's how you take care of that in the best way possible that you can feel okay about later on. Then maybe 12 months or so ago, we heard helicopters. We heard a helicopter buzzing in the ngahere here. And we came out to have a look, and we rode up our track, and we watched while a helicopter with a huge monsoon bucket offloaded, I guess, poison to poison a crop of marijuana. That's our guess is what it is. It was never in the news, but we watched it happen. And the helicopter went away and refilled and came back again. And for us that live in a situation where I don't even eat in the ngahere, I don't eat there. I ask permission before I walk into it, because I'm shifting from the realm of mankind, off my whenua, into the ngahere. I ask permission to do that. No one drinks alcohol here in the ngahere. We don't smoke. Nobody smokes down there. It is a sacred place. And to actually visually sit by and watch powerless while somebody drops poison onto a crop, rightly or wrongly, that crop growing, but the point is to drop from the sky litres upon litres, probably hundreds of litres of toxins from the sky that's just going to sit on that land, on a hillside, and flow down into the awa. Now for us that takes great delight at the same tuna that comes back and migrates, comes up from the ocean and up through the stream into this awa year after year, stops at the same place, and we see that, and we feed them from time to time. But respectful, and know that migrational, seasonal habit happens, or practice happens, and then through powerlessness see a government agency feeling like that is the best way to deal with others that are growing a plant. So there's a powerlessness that comes with that. It's not only is that poisoning our ngahere, it's potentially killing off microorganisms that are in our ground. It is poisoning perhaps, the uptake from some of the trees, particularly rongoa, that I or my children or my neighbours or my grandchildren might need to harvest. It is not safe then any longer to go and do that. So when you look at cultural practices, I'm not sure that that the government departments that make those decisions to do those things think about the people that live below that poison drop. What is going on for their lives, and the hugeness of the ripple effect of that and how that could be. My moko actually delights in being in bare feet, down in the awa, shifting rocks, making a little pile, one on top of the other, or making a little dam, or just down there playing. I don't know another grandmother that would ever think that that was okay to let her grandchildren go ahead and do that after you see poison drop rain from the sky like that. So the Kiwi lifestyle of a child in bare feet that wants to play in water has become then an issue and something that needs to be stopped and guarded against because of others' decisions. So there are issues. There is yin-yang in life, you know, the good and the bad, the positive and the negative. And amongst what some people call this is paradise when they come here, you know, you can hear the birds singing. At the moment there's a lot of cicadas around, but the water running through and the fresh oxygen that we are given to breathe in, and this beautiful cool sight of green, lush green around us. That is such a privilege to have. We also have a responsibility to raise our voices when that is harmed. So, oranga tamariki, lots of issues in our news lately about how our children are treated and what government organisations need to do about that when they need to step in and they take care of the children. Actually, these are Tāne's children. I would like to see an oranga tamariki type of situation that is ready to go in and uplift or take care of our children, stand in front of them and guard them with their lives. You know, Tāne, as the parent of these children, probably sees them no different to how we do when we're looking on and seeing a child that is in danger or is in trouble. So I guess the way that we do our lives to a degree, even though we are grown adults and, you know, getting on in years, there is a degree of how people speak into our lives. And on a marae, in my marae, and like most maraes too, you know, we have rangatiratanga. So we have kaumata and kuia, chiefs, people that have come down through a line of chiefs that have ultimate decision making, and wisdom of the ages sits with them. A lot of responsibility of how we go about our marae, how we run our marae, how our huis run, decision making around that happens at that level, and for most of us we respectfully listen to that, and there is an authority and a respect around the wisdom that comes with age, and an overview that a lot of us don't have until we reach that age. So there is that, and that happens also here in our whare, and regardless that we have adult children, they're still our children, and there are times when they ask our opinions about things and seek our wisdom on things. And I think too, as grandparents, we have that sort of say into our grandchildren's lives. On the other hand, I guess there is that other world view around kawanatanga, so how the government decides things should be for the betterment of all. And we actually are not a rebellious people in this household or in this whānau, but there can be sometimes clashes in beliefs and value systems and how to live with that. So for instance, as far as conservation is concerned, for instance, what we might feel, what we as in my whānau and whanaunga on my marae, what we might agree on and be led by our kaumata and kuia as far as issues in regarding maybe foreshore or seabeds or the ngahere, etc., that might clash with the government's viewpoint, and how we actually live with that. When you actually are standing in one worldview that dictates that this is the right way to go, but are in the presence of a far more, and sometimes often far more powerful and influential and financial situation that can dictate how our life how our lives will go, or what we will be living like with the foreshore and seabed and the ngahere, etc., for instance. Those two clashes of worldviews can be incredibly painful, and there's a powerlessness that comes with lack of control and lack of what we would see as the right kaupapa of things. Yeah. Yeah, some time ago, a couple of years ago now, we heard that there may have been a poison drop happen in the Whangaroa area. And my first reaction to that was to, I become emotional even when I'm thinking back to that. My reaction, actually, my first step was to go down to the awa and cry. Because the spring-fed river, my belief system is that out of Papatūānuku's belly, the spring-fed river comes out of. So in childbirth, when the waters break and a baby is born out of the mother, that is life-giving, protective, nurturing water that flows from a mother's belly. And so out of Papatūānuku's belly, out of the spring, flows that for all types of life that can live in that and alongside it. And so part of my practice actually is most mornings I will go down to the awa, get in there and greet the day, but also karakia. And sometimes I will karanga, and I will karanga to Papatūānuku and to the living waters from which life comes from and flows out of. And that particular morning when I heard that this was going to happen, I wailed because it felt like my mother was going to be harmed immeasurably, and I would not be able to do anything about that. And my tears actually, as they fell into the water, it felt like this responsibility that Steve and I had taken as kaitiaki here, taking care of the awa and being really mindful of what happens downstream, was futile. That was potentially futile, that it was of no good, because a government organisation and people that say with scientific proof that this is the order of things and this needs to be done, would go ahead and do these things. And who am I, a grandmother in the bush, to be able to stop that? So it felt like it was incredibly traumatic for me, and it mobilised me to get involved in being very proactive as I possibly could, in trying to stop that from happening. After that, probably maybe 6 months later, someone posted on Facebook that Mungataniwha was going to have a 1080 drop on it. And actually, I had read that in the morning. I was in bed, and I read that. My husband was out in the kitchen, and he heard me scream, he heard me wail, and he thought someone had died, that I'd just read someone had died. And he rushed into the room to see what was the matter, what on earth was the matter. And I said, they're going to drop on Mungataniwha. This is where we are here. And it was in that moment that, first of all, I got clarification that it was not here. There was another Mungataniwha further down the line. I had an immediate, and maybe selfish, but sense of relief that it was not here. But in that instance, I felt what it was like for so many grandparents and parents and children that live in other places that have lived with that have lived with the drop happening where they live and have had to put up with that and have not been able to stop that. What that feeling of death or threat of being killed or dying sounds dramatic, but that's what it felt like, that powerlessness where something monumental is about to happen and it is going to impact everything that is alive in that area. And in that moment I felt such deep empathy for everyone else that has gone through that. That is the impact of what that has done to me and to my whānau. And I have never protested anything in my life, you know, and I'm a bit embarrassed by that because there's been a lot of issues that have gone on in this world and in this nation, and for me to have never made a stand about anything much. When I say that, I've been an advocate for abused women and children in my working career. But politically, I really have not taken a step forward. This prompted me to do that. You know, I never thought that I would take a banner in my hand and scream out stuff from the street. You know, but I did that, and I will do it again if I need to do that. Powerlessness. It's an interesting thing, you know, that victims of abuse feel that degree of loss of control, and the dynamic that is involved in abuse is power and control. And I think that's what a lot of us feel when we walk in our own realm of being caretakers and kaitiakis and actually not be able to do what it is that we are called to do and feel right to do. Kia ora. So when I come through here, I'm asking permission to come into the ngahere. And with my moko, I will sometimes ring the bell like a doorbell, asking permission to enter. Karangamoira, karangamoira.